Welcome ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to take a look at the Stamina Nightblade bow gank build for Cyrodiil for the Summerset chapter. I do have a written guide on my website, link in the description below. So when we look at our stats, there we go, on the bow bar, 1.5k stam rec, 34k stamina, 14k max magicka and 21k health. Health seems to be a bit low, but don't worry, you should only play ranged with this setup. It's a bow build. So you should not get into melee fights. If you get into melee fights, you're doing something wrong. We're running the Warrior Mundus Stone. Now, I currently have a sharpened bow. I actually do recommend running Nernhound. I didn't have the traits to change. You would even get a little bit more weapon damage that way. But I will explain that in a second. The Warrior Mundus Stone for more weapon damage. Buff food wise, so I do recommend running the tri-stat buff food. Because we have Shadowy Disguise and all those like support abilities that require magicka. So that's why I like this. If you think you don't need it, you can run the max health, max stam to get even a little bit more stamina. Potions, I usually run those. Immovability pots, which give me CC immunity, speed buff, and they restore stamina. Now you don't necessarily need the speed buff because we have access to channeled acceleration on this build. And because we are a vampire, you see, we are really fast, even in sneak. So we can reposition ourselves quite fast. And about this, if you want more crit, just run like some potion that gives you the weapon crit bonus, something like that, up to you. In terms of race, so Wood Elf would probably be the best choice because it gives you more stamina recovery. Khajiit, second one. Both Wood Elf and Khajiit have stealthy passive, which reduces the detection radius in stealth and increases the damage done while in stealth. That's why Khajiit and Wood Elves are the best choice. Red Guard, Imperial, Orc, they also work. I do recommend being a vampire for this build. First off, you get 10% more recovery. Then you see the Dark Stalker for Vampire Stage 4. Ignore the movement speed penalty while in crouch. And also decreases the time it takes to crouch by 50% during the night. That's really nice, and that's why we can move around so fast. Now in terms of gear setup, we use Marksman and Hawkeye. So Marksman, first off, 2 stamina recovery bonus, weapon damage, and then reduces the cost of your stamina abilities by 5% and increases the damage of your bow abilities against players by 8%. That's a lot of extra damage. Hawkeye does a similar thing, reduces the cost and increases the damage of your bow abilities by 5%. So it's 5% from Hawkeye and 8% from Marksman. That's a huge damage increase. Plus, the sets overall have really nice bonus that actually help with sustain and just max stats. Then I run 1 Kina and 1 Valley Dref. Simply because both of those give 1 weapon damage bonus. So that's why we have so much weapon damage even though we have a bow bar. And if you actually run a Nernhound bow, you would have even higher numbers. In terms of traits, I just recommend running full Divine. You could technically run Impen, but like I said, if you get into melee fights, you're playing this build wrong. So full Divine will just buff your weapon damage by so much. It will really help kill off targets. So I just recommend going Divine, and then you just need to learn to play how to not get into melee fights. If you want a full monster set here, you can do so. The build is highly adjustable. If you prefer Morak Tong over, for example, Hawkeye, and then you want to use Lethal Arrow, you can. I mean, I always swap around between Morak Tong and Hawkeye a little bit, but I myself prefer Hawkeye because Morak Tong has one problem, like the first impact hit will not get the 10% bonus if I remember correctly. Maybe they changed it, but I think it's still like that. So that's why I like the Marksman and Hawkeye setup more. Plus, Hawkeye also helps with cost reduction. And this setup also works in non-champion points campaign. So you can basically also play with this setup there. Because we have so much cost reduction and damage, extra damage for bow abilities. So I mentioned the traits here. I'm running 6 medium, 1 light. You could probably go 5 medium, 1 heavy, 1 light. To get more out of the Undaunted passive here. So you get 6% max resources. Just keep in mind you will lose some bonus like stamina recovery, cost reduction, weapon crit, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's up to you. It's just personal preference, I guess. Now, okay, that's this. I just run full stem enchants because we don't really need a lot of health. And on jewelry, I still run robust with weapon damage. I like the robust trait because it gives me a lot of max stamina, which therefore helps again with sustain. Now, if you want a little bit more damage, you could run 3 infused. It is a little bit more damage, but the difference is so small, that's why I prefer robust. Bow. I run a sharpened bow, however you can also run a Nirnhunt bow. Nirnhunt bows will do more damage on shielded targets. Like, penetration doesn't work on shielded targets, but sharpened will help to kinda damage the tanky setups more. With a disease enchantment. Backbar, any random two-hander works. Two-hander bar is only here to buff, like to buff us. And I also run escapist poisons. Simply because if somebody actually tries to attack you, you might, like if they go off, it will drain their stamina, it will root them, and so on. Just helps with escaping. Okay, that's the general setup. Now, champion points. On my website, I have the champion points, and my website is always more up to date, so some stuff might be changed there. Pretty simple setup. Most important, obviously, those here. We have a lot of direct damage, increased damage on shields, a lot of penetration, some just physical damage, and the crit. Now in terms of passives, you want all the class passives. Now here are a few things that are important. Hemorrhage. Increases your critical damage by 10%. With an assassination ability slotted. So we have this here to benefit from this passive. You also get more weapon damage while you're sneaking. Keep that in mind. So when we actually look at this on the bow bar, 3.5, when we go into sneak it will go up. So with a Nirnhunt bow we will reach over 4k on top of the damage amplifiers. Then here, I mean, refreshing shadows is nice because it gives you a lot of extra recovery. Siphoning, when you drink a pot you can gain ulti. There's a lot of other cool stuff, but whatever. Then you want the two-handed passives, bow passives. You want all medium armor. If you run a heavy armor piece, like the reason why I'm not running a heavy armor piece, I just didn't have any. Otherwise I would have run a heavy here. If you run a heavy armor piece, you would get a little bit more health. All the vamp, well, you mostly need the supernatural recovery and the Darkstalker. Undeath can also be nice, but yeah. You want the Fighter's Guild, Suchik, Undaunted, then the Alliance War, racial passives, and medicinal use. So your potion, like you can keep up your potions 100% of the time. Passive list is also on my website. Now, when we look at the bow, or let's start with the support bar. Rally gives us a nice burst heal, gives us access to major brutality. Main reason. If you want, you could run forward momentum, but actually I like rally. Channeled acceleration. Now, this is a new skill from the Suchik order. Bend time and space around you to gain major expedition for 9 seconds and minor force for 36 seconds. So you get speed buff for 9 seconds, which is nice. And you get 10% extra crit damage, which is huge. So this build got quite a bit stronger this patch overall. Another nice thing about channeled acceleration is now I'm hidden. I can cast it and I don't get revealed. So you can recast this in stealth and you will not get revealed. Shadow Image, a key ability of a Nightblade, and you really need to learn to play with that. Especially if people are trying to kill you. You can place that on keep walls or like on high rocks and stuff like that. Jump down somewhere. The enemies will follow you and then you can port back up and they will not be able to come back up. So that's a really nice escape utility ability, which you really need to learn to play with. Like, if you know how to use this, you will, like, nobody will really manage to kill you. Piercing Mark. Now, if enemies are already in combat, I recommend actually applying this, because it applies Fracture and Breach, decreasing their resistances. So yeah. And this also helps for enemy Nightblades. So Nightblades really rely on Cloak. They can avoid a lot of damage with Cloak. And if you mark them, they cannot Cloak anymore. It's a huge dick move, but it's very efficient. Vigor heals you for a lot, like I've said. If you play correctly, you shouldn't necessarily need it that much. And we have Temporal Guard on the back bar. While slotted, you gain minor protection, reducing your damage taken by 8%. And obviously, what this does is, like when we use resources, and then you press the button, we get the resources back and stuff like that. And again, you can really confuse people with this. Like, if you port to your shade, you run to the other direction, maybe they will follow you, then you use the ulti, you get ported back, and so on. People just get hella confused. You could run the other morph. The other morph, you can use that ulti while you're CC'd, the other morph. So that's another option that you have. Like I said, always adjust skills to your needs. The build should always function as a base to your own build. Poison Injection, very nice damage over time. Then, and obviously this kills off a lot of targets, because we have so much weapon damage and just overall increased damage on bow abilities. This will hit like a truck. Shadowy Disguise, cloak yourself in shadow to become invisible for 3 seconds. Your next direct damage attack used within 3 seconds will always be a critical strike. Keep that in mind. I will showcase that off in a second. Focused Aim, now this is your main ability that you will kill most targets with. Radiant Mage Light. So they changed Empower in the Mage's Guild here. You kinda want this. So Empower now increases the damage of your next light attack by 40%. You could technically swap this out if you don't want the extra damage on the light attacks. However, I still think it's very nice. Plus, like, if there's invisible enemies, you can reveal them, which is also nice. And I actually do like the extra light attack damage. Relentless Focus needs to be up all the time. First off, it gives you the Minor Berserk, increasing your damage by 8%, and also gives you stamina recovery 10%. After 5 light attacks, you also can shoot the Spectral Bow, which will damage your enemies even more. Ballista. Now here you have two options. If you want even more weapon damage, you could run Flawless Dawnbreaker. So we basically have 4k. If you would run Nirnholm, probably like 4.4k in stealth. I do like the Ballista because it can actually help kill off targets, or like if enemies get close to you, you can use the Ballista. Kind of keep them busy. Because the Ballista hit, you see the overall damage is insane. It hits like a truck. So they have to go very defensive while this is on them. Now, just to quickly showcase you an example how you should play this build, and I will show you off the combo. Once again, this is a ranged build. You should not necessarily engage alone. Try to pick off enemies that are busy fighting your allies so you can support them. Do not engage in melee fights. You can see the damage this build has. The Templar down there is in heavy armor and we basically almost insta-kill him. He's actually fighting the other body, my body there, and doesn't think so, he's beaming. That means he's not blocking, so he takes all the unmitigated damage. Just to make you a little bit more familiar with bow passives. I mean, you have speed buff here, then you have Hawkeye, so every time you do a light attack you get 5% damage boost. And the most important one, long shots, gives you a damage bonus of up to 12% against enemies at long range. So the further you're away, the more damage you get. Let me quickly turn on damage numbers. Combat text, I guess it's that. So when I... yeah. Now from this range, 12.2. That was a crit. 12.6 and so on. And you see, this ability has such a long range. And the funny thing is, like, this had outside of Cyrodiil is 35, but I think inside Cyrodiil is 38 meters, 48 meters. So it has a very long range. Obviously, poison injection doesn't have the same range. And in Cyrodiil, you get extra, like, extra range on abilities that are that have a certain range. So just check it out there. We can actually check it out after this, just to quickly show before we end the video. Now in terms of combos, so like I said, it's not fairly hard. It's mostly you want to pre-buff. Now the first hit out of stealth will always be a crit, right? It's very important. Now what I usually do, when you're in stealth, you shoot, then you shoot another one, and you use Shadowy Disguise. So both your snipe hits will be crits. Because the first hit will be a crit anyway, because we are stealthed. Then the second hit, so when we shoot this, we are stealthed, right? We get revealed. We shoot another bow snipe, and then press Shadowy Disguise. Right before it actually hits. Because like we see before, your next direct damage attack used within 3 seconds will always be a critical strike. So that ensures us that the next hit will be a critical strike. If that didn't kill the enemy, then yeah. Usually it should be enough. What you also can do is, if you're in close enough range with poison injection, again 2 of those, then a light attack and poison injection. That will just help even pressuring the enemies more. And that's all about it. If you learn that combo, no problemo. Keep in mind, don't attack heavy armor targets if possible. Don't attack shielded targets. Don't attack targets with 40-50k health. You need to pick off the squishy ones. Okay? If you can't kill people, you're probably attacking the wrong enemies. You need to pick off the squishy ones with low health that are usually in light armor, medium armor. They will not see you coming. Sure, snipe has a quite loud, noisy sound, so enemies will they will hear it coming. But if they're already engaged in combat, then they will be busy with other stuff, so they will probably not notice you. Once again, people will be pissed at you because nobody really likes snipe builds because they're quite effective, and you will get hate whispers, just as a precaution. This is a Cyrodiil build, works in champion points and non-champion points Cyrodiil campaign. You could probably make it work in battlegrounds, but battlegrounds are more about skirmishes, so I don't think it's that effective. People will find you and kill you. It will be very hard to actually get away. Oh yeah, that's about this. Now let's quickly port to Cyrodiil just to show you the range of the focused aim or the snipe. Because that thing has such a long distance, and you don't really need anything else. If you get the snipe combo with Shadowy Disguise out of sneak, easy peasy lemon squeezy. So when we look here, you see 48 meters. Poison ejection is 41 meters now. So you can stay at a very safe distance. And people will not really find you. Now if you're near a keep, like I said, when you look at this here, I think it's Assault. Yeah, increases the range of long range abilities by 5 meters while near a keep. So you get another 5 meters. So yeah. So yeah, the build is very fun to play for the player, but it triggers off the enemies hardcore. On the other hand, the build is here to support your allies from the back. It's Cyrodiil after all. That's more or less it. If you have any questions, ask me in the comment section below. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. Don't forget to subscribe. Cheers.